Good evening, everybody, or hello, everybody. My name's Mr. Ballantyne, Assistant Head in charge of Key Stage 4. I am joined tonight by Miss Connor, Head of Year 11, and we are, this is the recorded version of the GCSE revision skills presentation we did on Tuesday, the 9th of November. The aims of the session are fourfold. We want to give you some advice on how to support your son or daughter through exams. And then we've got some very practical tips on how to organise and plan your revision, and what revision resources are available to you, where you can get them from, how you can access the online ones. If you were at the parent information evening back in September, you'll remember this Year 11 roadmap. If not, this is what is coming up over the important few months ahead of us. Reports have gone out last week. If you didn't receive a copy of your report by email, please let Miss Connor or your son or daughter's tutor know. We've got sixth form open evening on the 17th of November. There are also college open evenings taking place at the moment. Really, really important that you engage with that. Learning review days on the 2nd and 3rd of December are a chance to discuss progress with your son or daughter's tutor. And then the all-important mock exams start on the 6th of December. And all students have been given an exam timetable for that. It's really, really important to check through that if you haven't already, to make sure that all of the subjects are there, all of the right entries, foundation, higher for maths and for science are all correct. That was sent out just before October half term. When we come back after Christmas, there'll be further reports reporting on the mock exams. A parents' evening, there'll be some more mock exams for the core subjects in March. And then after, just before half term, the GCSE exams start. And prom and summer are on the horizon. Okay, so in thinking about what do you need for success? What do students need for success over the coming months? 5 real qualities that I'd like to talk about. First off, that their revision must be focused, and Miss Connor will talk about how to focus that down. Focus in terms of where they do it, but what they are revising. There has to be a sense of optimism. They have to be optimistic that this is the opportunity for them to demonstrate their skills, everything that they've learned over the last 2 years and beyond, and show off their knowledge. There is going to have to be resilience. If they're struggling, please do encourage your son or daughter to talk to you, to talk to their form tutor, their subject teacher, and their mentor. They will be supported, but they need to be resilient. Creativity is really, really important. Revising isn't playing FIFA 22. We can't lay it out, we can't sugarcoat it. It is hard work. There will be times when it will be a little bit boring, but there are ways to make revision creative and actually, who knows, fun. Hopefully that will be the case. Energy is going to be important as well. It is a long time, 7 months. It's a marathon, not a sprint, and we've got some ideas on how to keep those energy levels up. What can you do as parents to help? Well, I think one of the most important things is securing a quiet place for them to study, and making sure that the rest of the family know that that's their quiet place as well, and not to be interrupted if possible by younger or older siblings, or shifting people out the way off from their table. Trying to find a time and a place that they can study. Making sure that it's not just about revision, that they are getting out there. Having a walk is such a powerful way to boost energy levels, to feel more healthy, to get some more fresh air. They should be sleeping lots, not using their phone late at night, and as far as possible eating healthy food. Avoid energy drinks at all costs, particularly on the nights before exams, because they need that sleep. And really, really importantly, make sure that they do get to continue to play football, go to the cinema, hang out with their friends, have some game time if that's what they like to do. They should be able to shut down from exams and have some time off, because it is, like I say, a marathon, not a sprint. Encourage them to stick to their revision plan and do praise their effort and hard work. There will be times where you're thinking they're not doing enough. They'll be working really hard at school, and you won't see that, but they will be working hard at school. So when you see them working at home as well, please do praise them. Be around, take an interest, but don't take over. They need to do this independently. It's important that they do that. They've got to be in control of it. And I'd say that about tutors as well. You know, sometimes there is no need for a tutor. I think lots of people think that there is. There isn't. If you follow the instructions of the teachers at home, at school, your son or daughter will get through their exams. But sometimes a tutor, sort of in the mind of a student, outsources the revision to someone else, and they've got to be in charge of it. Get them to keep things in perspective. Don't catastrophize. Don't allow them to catastrophize. It's not going to be the end of the world. They're important, yes, but get them to keep it in perspective about the things that matter to them. And as ever, do contact the school if you're worried about them at any point. I thought I'd just include this, a few maybe useful phrases to avoid saying and try saying, because as parents, and I'm a parent as well, I know we don't always get it right, and maybe these will help. So if your child says, I can't do this, avoid saying, don't worry, it'll be fine, or I was rubbish at that at school, but maybe try rephrasing it. You can't do it yet. What do you need in order to do it? Empowering them that way. You might not be able to do it yet, but let's find out how we can work it out. So just rephrasing that. Another one, this will probably be said quite a few times over the course of the next few months. Why do I even need to do this? It's a total waste of time. If it's something about trigonometry or some aspect of science that they perhaps got no interest in, yeah, I agree. I've never needed that trigonometry at work. Avoid that, but just re-emphasising that actually that piece of paper that they carry around with their GCSE results is really, really important. It will always have it, and the more grades that are on there, the better. The more doors will open. If they say I need help with my revision. It seems a strange one, saying, OK, let's get it done. But this is this idea of empowering them to be independent. So asking them what have they done so far? So they're working it through. What can they do next? And finally, if they say, well, I don't need GCSEs anyway, I'll get an apprenticeship / win the lottery / marry rich. Couple of things to avoid saying. Sarcastically, of course you will, and pigs might fly. Or good old Uncle Roger, he never got a single GCSE, and look at him, he's made it to the top. But instead, just again, re-emphasising, let's make sure that those results that you get are everything that they can do to make sure they're great. On the website, this was from the last parent information evening we had, I put up a list of fact sheets which take a topic at a time. They're for parents, and they have more information about how you can support your child through exams, and we'll put the link out to that again after when this is up on the website as well. Miss Connor.
Okay, so I wanted to talk this evening about the practicalities around organisation and planning. And the aim of this next section of the evening is to give you practical strategies and ideas as to how best to support your child. It is worth mentioning from the off that these aren't the only ways, they're just some of the ways to get you going and give you some ideas. Behind the importance of organisation and planning is this idea of if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get where you've always got. So if you don't change, get things sorted, organised and planned in advance, then the outcome is unlikely to be different than it has been before. I also wanted to take this opportunity to remind you about the Vesper tutor programme that students have been doing in the mornings. All of the sessions that they've been doing contribute in terms of transforming their commitment, motivation and productivity, and particularly relevant with organisation and planning is systems and practice. And in their green books, they should have sheets that they've done. They've mapped out their time. They have completed an activity called Mission and Medal, where it's rewarding themselves and thinking about how they're going to reward themselves for the work that they put in. So they're also strategies that you can use and encourage them to use at home. So just a reminder of those things too. Okay, this almost seems like stating the obvious, but is absolutely crucial. Students need to know what exams they're taking. So as Mr. Ballantyne mentioned about the exam timetables, when they are, what's going to be in each exam. This revision guide, not a revision guide, well, it is a revision guide, guide about how to revise. We're going to be giving these to every single student in Year 11 in the coming weeks. In the back of the book, there's sections for students to write in the subjects that they're studying and spaces for them to rate how their confidence, their knowledge on those different subject areas. So that will be really useful for students as well. Also knowing the rules and regulations of the exam. So all of that will be gone through in tutor time, and further information will be on class charts. Okay, also worth mentioning revision timetables. Students have been spoken to about this in tutor time already. In the back of this book as well, there are templates to support with that. And there's an alternative template that we've looked at during the Vesper stuff in tutor time too. Just some images on the screen there. If obviously things work differently for different people, it might work better that it's a computerized version, a handwritten, or just simply using the template that has been provided. It's just whatever is going to work. So again, just some different ideas for that. We think it's reasonable to anticipate 2 sessions in an evening and around about 4 sessions on a weekend. It's proven that shorter sessions are more effective than a longer chunk of time studying, because it's nearly impossible to concentrate and be productive for a long period of time. There's also research done about how efficient your memory can be towards the beginning and the end of a revision session. So if it's a long session, the stuff in the middle is going to be least efficient, and students have been told about that in assembly as well. Here is another suggestion for how you can help your child chunk up their time. So a 1 hour model. It can also be a good idea to interleave different subjects for short periods of time. So as shown on the diagram here. Another method that students have been talked to about in my assembly last week is the Pomodoro technique. So setting a timer for 25 minutes, deciding on a small task to be done in that time, work solidly for that 25 minutes, so phone away, no distractions, then a 5-minute break, and then you would start the cycle again with a longer cycle at the end of that. So that can build up to a couple of hours of work within that. So on to some practical ways of actually how to revise and how to advise your children if they're saying, I don't know where to start. So a great way to start is practice papers. So first thing to check though is the exam board and the specifications. So students should have that information. It should also be on the website, but obviously if there is confusion, then you can check with class teachers. Teachers may provide students with past papers. They are readily available online, or they can be purchased through companies such as CGP. So with regards to how to find them online, you can simply do a Google search with the exam board, the specification, and then GCSE, and then past papers, and you will be able to find some. So I've just taken a screenshot there from the AQA landing page where you can drill down to the detail and find those online. Okay, so one strategy of how to actually use those past papers could be using them to create an exam guide. So you can start with a blank piece of paper, look at the front cover of the past paper, highlight the number of marks available, how many minutes there are in total, divide the marks by the minutes, and then kind of use that to create like a front cover crib sheet for that subject and that particular exam. Students could then go through the exam paper, highlighting the command words in each question. And then typically there are types of questions or structures within exam papers that can be predicted to an extent. And so where students are familiar with that, they can put that on their guide that they're creating for that subject and that exam paper. They can also then add information about how to tackle each type of question that they will be familiar with from class. So other ways of using practice papers, so you can, it's likely that students will be able to create their own past papers for some subjects. So for example, for English, that is a really, really easy thing to do. They can find extracts of their own, they can write their own questions, so long as they're replicating the structure and the command words used, and that is something that they're encouraged to do in class as well. I think it's really important that practice papers are used under timed conditions. That way it can give a really realistic idea of where they're at, what they need to work on. Another strategy could be to plan an answer using class notes, then answer the question without the notes, and then use the notes to assess what was missed using mark schemes. And I've written here working backwards and forwards. What I mean by that is looking at the mark scheme and then using that to perhaps write an answer up, or doing the question cold and then using the mark scheme to figure out what was missing. Past papers can also be useful to diagnose gaps in knowledge and understanding, and then book like this where they've got their list of topics for different subjects, so the whole thing can start to be used together. Another method that we're recommending is mind maps. Essentially, mind maps are a way of condensing notes and summarising. It's really important that whatever method of revision they're doing, it does need to be an active method of revisions, not simply reading and highlighting notes. It's not active enough, okay? So we're encouraging creativity here. A blank piece of paper turned landscape. There can be images on there, diagrams. It's also worthwhile. Sometimes mind maps can be called association maps, and that can be useful with regards to drawing links and connections between the work that students have done. So students would write the main topic or the question that they want to revise in the middle, and then for each key point, branches would be built out from there, and then links can be made between the information that's on there. It is also crucial that that is in students' own words rather than simply copying out. Another method of creating the mind map could be to revise the content and then try and create the mind map from memory and then going back to notes. Okay, back to you, Mr. Ballantyne.
So flashcards are also a really effective technique. And again, if you're writing your own, it's an active way of revision. There are some actually quite good videos on YouTube all about studying. There's ones about how students in the past have done have made flashcards. There are even videos on YouTube where someone will just be studying for an hour and you have it on in the background as a study companion, which is quite good actually. But the great thing about flashcards is you're revising while you make them. They allow you, the parents or friends, to test each other. They're not great for everything. So for things like facts, events, vocabulary, dates and formulae, they're good, but they're not on their own the best way to revise. It has to be a range of different things, like Miss Connor says, so like the practice papers as well. You can make your own, just cutting up paper into A6, or on Amazon they're roughly between £3 and £5 for 150, depending on whether you get coloured ones or whether you get white ones. Just a couple of ideas about how to use them. Have lots of them, write questions on them, and I'll show you an example of that in a minute. And then quite a nice idea is to put dates on the bottom, and tick off when you last looked at the flashcard. That way you know if you're how confident you are with it. There are online versions, so Quizlet is probably the best known of them, but the thing about using Quizlet is that you haven't made those flashcards, whereas if you handwrite them, it's that active idea of doing revising while you're making the flashcards. Here's an example of one, the front of one. So at the top there, what I've got is the subject and the chunked it down by units. This is a poetry flashcard. Rossetti is the author. It's about the relationships. And then 3 questions on there. Who broke off their engagement? Why do you break off the engagement? How might it have shaped his later life? And then down the bottom there, that's where we've got those dates that you can check off, and you can put week beginning if you like, when it was last studied. And then this just shows you the other side of it, the three answers. And there's nothing to stop you actually saying, having an extension on there, you know, actually writing a little bit about it, write an extension, or drawing a picture that represents what you've been asked. Anything that gets the brain thinking. A note on revision books and resources. I know in year 10 you will have been told about revision books. If not, they are all available. The vast majority are available on the school Scopay site. So if you go onto Scopay, you should see all of the CGP books that are available, and it will be for the correct exam boards as well. They're really good. I have to say they really, really are good, because they typically will provide a complete set of notes already condensed down into single pages. So from those revision books, the flashcards can be made. They can be used to do the practice papers. They can be used to make the mind maps. So see Scopay for details on those revision books. Back to you, Ms. Connor. Am I doing the maths one? Yeah, okay. So some subject-specific revision tips that have been provided by Maths, English and Science. Mrs. Avery Doyle, here's her top tips. As we've said before, revising little and often and using the revision guides, you know, having the practice papers there and the revision guides open on the page that for the topic that you're doing really works well, because they'll have worked examples on there. Hegarty Maths is absolutely fantastic. If your son or daughter isn't using it now, then please encourage them to do so. Maths will also be holding, following Christmas, weekly revision sessions after school or at lunchtime, maybe a combination of both. And they do provide an amazing workbook for all students, which has a mixture of different past papers, and so you'll be getting that following the mock exams. There are also revision cards as well with formulae on them. I think those are available on Scopay. Key message to take away: the only way to revise maths, says Mrs. Avery Doyle, is to do maths. In the same way that a tennis player gets great by playing tennis every day, not by just reading what makes a good tennis player. Doing and practicing it is what's going to make you get better. And this is key. Prioritize what you get wrong. There's a tendency to just do the ones that you're comfortable with. Yeah, okay, I know that. I know I'm going to get those right. But if you get it wrong, that's how you know what you need to revise, and that's how you're going to get better. And also it provides that challenge to push you forward in the right direction. Final bullet there is all about exam conditions, and I think what Miss means by that is knowing how long you would have to do that particular question and sticking to it, trying to time yourself to do it in that, and that will also keep your revision nice and snappy as well. Now, one of the changes because of the pandemic is that there will be formulae provided in the exam. That's what the exam boards have said. What that looks like in terms of a sort of a help sheet, I'm not sure. I would still say it is worth learning these formulae rather than them being something that looks very alien during the exam, but that will be provided in the May and June exams. Here's a list of the online resources that Maths use. Corbett Maths, Hegarty Maths have talked about, but there are plenty of resources, and there's some really good YouTube videos as well, some sort of short and snappy ones that just go through worked examples at the pace of the student. And that's what the revision guides look like that are available to buy on Scope A, a mixture between the revision guides, which have the worked examples, and workbooks. Make sure you correctly choose higher or foundation, depending on what level your son or daughter is going for. Okay, Miss Connor, English.
Okay, so we did mention this at the earlier parent information evening this year, but just a recap on it. So there's Oak National Academy. There are actual lessons with PowerPoints, quizzes. There's a recording of a teacher where students can stop and pause. So they're really good. So there's lessons available there on Macbeth, which will supplement work that's been done in class. There's BBC Bite Size, there's the CGP revision guides, which have been mentioned already. Again, Mrs. Sayers is recommending short bursts of revision, little and often. We've also got a Padlet website that's been put together by Mr. Wall. So there are tons of resources on there and students have got access to that too. And again, revision sessions starting after Christmas. Also worth mentioning that the December mocks, so it's English language paper 2, so that's non-fiction texts, and then literature paper 2. So the exams in December for literature, where there is perhaps been some slight confusion, the students are going to be assessed on Macbeth and unseen poetry. Okay, other things, we've got the Pixel app where all students have got a login and they can access that. That's something that can be done on the bus, a 10-minute spare 10 minutes here and there. Also, there's Mr. Brough, who's a teacher who's got a channel on YouTube, various videos, and again, targeted. So he's got some on there, how to get to the top band, down to just revising the plot of something. We've also got Seneca, which is free, and all students have got access to that too, and some teachers are using that to set homework as well. Just about science, so there's revision cards available there as well. Homework is really targeted, and so it's important that students spend the correct amount of time on that and complete it to the best of their ability. All students have got access to Caboodle, which is an online textbook. There are revision guides available in higher and foundation. It's also worth noting that triple science is students who have picked science as an option, and so that counts for 3 separate GCSEs. So those students should buy resources for the triple, and biology, chemistry and physics, whereas trilogy students, that's a dual award, so that counts for 2 GCSEs, and so they should purchase resources for trilogy combined science. Okay, so also remembering higher or foundation, but if there's any doubt about which one you need to be buying, then you can ask Dr. Calloway or Mr. Davies about those. Here are some examples of the pages that are in the CGP revision books, and I think that page is from Caboodle. Also, the science department really recommend this as well. So on YouTube, there's this channel called Free Science Lessons, and they are short, free lessons, as in the title, readily available, and they're also really good way to revise for science. And I guess the last thing that we wanted to say is that students simply need to trust their teachers. It goes back to what Mr. Ballantyne said earlier on. Tutors, additional things aren't necessarily needed. Students just need to do as their teachers say, take the advice, take the feedback and work on it, and they will be absolutely fine. Okay, thank you. Good evening.